Hello and welcome back to Kim Reads as we continue with the story of my life. Chapter 7, Helen Learns to Read. The next important step in my education process was learning to read. Miss Sullivan gave me slips of cardboard as soon as I could spell a few words. These slips of cardboard, I printed words and raised letters on them, and I quickly grasped that each printed word represented an object, act, or quality. I was given a frame in which I could arrange words in small sentences. But even before I could arrange the sentences in the frame, I used them to make objects. Taking the slips of paper that represented things like bed, doll, on, and is, I presented them on the objects themselves. Then I placed the doll on the bed with the word is and on, thus making a sentence. I also executed the act that the sentence represented. I pinned the word girl on my pinafore and stood on the wardrobe. I arranged the word is and in and wardrobe on the shelf. This game delighted me the most, and Miss Sullivan and I played it for hours on end. The room was often arranged in object sentences by us. It was a natural progression from the printed slip on the printed book. I hunted for words in Reader for Beginners, and my joy knew no bounds when I discovered them. This is how I began reading. I received no regular lessons for a long time, and even when I'd studied most seriously, it was more play than work. Miss Sullivan taught me everything through a beautiful poem or story. If anything arrested my interest, she discovered it as if she were a small child herself. What most children dread is the painful plodding through grammar, difficult math, and tougher definitions. Those are my most precious memories today. Maybe Miss Sullivan had a natural affinity towards me, or her expertise was behind her a lengthy association with the blind. But the dedication to her work was unquestionable. She had an exceptional eye for detail and never nagged me for answers. She introduced the intricacies of science to me slowly, ensuring that the teaching was so real that I remembered everything taught me. We studied outdoors, preferring the warmth of woods to indoor study. The smell of the woods is ingrained in my early lessons, that sublime odor of pine needles blended with wild grapes. Anything that bloomed, hummed, buzzed, or sang was an instrumental in my furthering my education, like crickets, noisy-throated frogs, chickens, wildflowers, dogwood blossoms, meadow violets, and budding fruit trees. I found delight in feeling the softness of the budding cotton balls and in listening to the soft rustle of the leaves as the wind blew right through them. I recall the snort of my pony and the spicy covering smell of his breath. At dawn sometimes I crept into the garden, which was heavy with the dew resting in the flowers and the grass. What joy is it to feel the rose pressing softly into the hands and sway the lilies in the morning breeze. There were times when my fingers would meet an insect in the flower I was picking. I could feel the pair of wings moving frantically in sudden terror as the little creature became aware of the external presence. The orchard was another haunt of mine, and the fruit there ripened in early July. The big peaches would be begging to be picked, and the breeze would make apples fall at my feet. I would delightfully pick up heavy apples, feeling the sunny warmth of their freshness against my cheek. My favorite rock was to Keller's Landing, an old tumble-down lumber wharf on the Tennessee River. During the Civil War, it was used to land soldiers. We spent many happy hours there, and this was our place for geography lessons. I built dams of pebble, created fictitious islands and lakes, and dug riverbeds, having so much fun without realizing I was being taught a lesson. I was spellbound as Miss Sullivan told me stories about the great round world with its buried cities, burning mountains, moving rivers, and other strange things. She created raised maps in clay, and it was easier for me to comprehend and distinguish between mountain ridges and valleys, and so I could follow the deceptive course of rivers with my fingers. But I found the division of the earth into poles and zones utterly confusing. And even today, the mere mention of the temperate zone indicates a series of twined circles for me. Arithmetic was the only part of my education I had an aversion to. My teacher did making me count by stringing beads in groups. I learned to add and subtract by the arrangement of kindergarten straws. But I always lacked the presence to arrange more than 5 or 6 groups at a time. I studied botany and zoology in the same lazy manner. Once a gentleman, whose name I forget, sent me a collection of fossils. These were tiny mollusk shells that were beautifully marked. Sandstone parts with bird claw prints. And a beautiful bas relief fern. These gifts opened the antediluvian world for me. I heard Miss Sullivan describe these terrible beasts who had uncouth, unpronounceable names. They stormed through the primeval forest, smashing gargantuan trees for food, met with their deaths in the dismal swamps of an unknown age. These weird creatures haunted me in my dreams for a long time after I heard about them. I received a beautiful shell once, and I learned how a tiny mollusk had built the lustrous coil to reside in. My teacher also taught me how the shell building process of the mollusk symbolizes the development of the mind. Just as the mantle of the nautilus transforms the material it absorbs from the water and makes it part of itself. Similarly, the parts of knowledge that no one gathers to witness change to be transformed into pearls of thought. I learned how the Nautilus sails on the blue waters of the Indian Ocean in his ship of pearl. I learned about the children of the sea, like how the little polyps built the lovely coral isles of the Pacific amid waves that dashed upon them. Once the growth of a plant formed the text of a lesson, we purchased a lily, setting it in a sunny window. Soon the green plant pointed buds, displaying signs of opening. The slim, finger-like leaves on the outside opened slowly, albeit reluctantly. The loveliness that was always hidden was revealed in a systematic process. Always there was one bud that was larger and lovelier than the rest, which pushed her outer covering back with more pride and glory. It was as if she knew she was the lily queen, not resident like her sisters, who revealed themselves shyly in comparison. Then the whole plant was a nodding picture of beauty and fragrance. 11 tadpoles in a glass globe were once set in a window full of plants, and I easily discovered all about them. It was a whole bunch of fun to dip my hand to the bowl to feel the tadpoles' frisk hair and through my fingers. Once an ambitious tadpole jumped out of the bowl to his apparent death on the floor, a slight flicker of his tail being the only sign of life. But he was back to his elements as soon as he released in the water again. Swimming in circles joyously, he had made his great leap, seen the world, and was now content to bask in the glass house till he attained the status of froghood. When he did so, he went to reside in the leafy pool at the end of the garden, making the summer nights musical with his renditions of everlasting love songs. So I learned from life itself. My teacher unfolded, and I developed the mass of possibilities that I, Helen Keller, was. Miss Sullivan always pointed out the beauty in everything and never stopped trying in thought, action, and example to make my life meaningful, lovely, and useful. Thanks to her love, foresight, and genius, the first phase of my education was so beautiful. Realizing that a child's mind is like a shallow brook, she fed it relentlessly with the water of mountain streams and hidden springs till it developed into a deep river. Any teacher can take a child into a classroom, but not every teacher can make a child learn. The child will only work in happiness when at liberty, but both the pleasure of victory and the pain of failure must be experienced before distasteful tasks are attempted by the child willingly. Only then will a child dance bravely through the routine monotony of textbook learning. My teacher is so close to me that I can barely think that she is apart from me. I don't know if my delight in all beautiful things is natural or is because of her influence, but I know that we are inseparable as beings and that every step that I take in life is hers. My best belongs to her, and everything that has been aroused in me, be it talent, aspiration, or happiness, is because of her. And it's the end of that chapter. See you later.